So as you can see, I have my iPhone here. I'm going to go in and log in through the Citrix receiver, which I have in a folder called Admin Utilities. I'm going to launch the Citrix receiver. Within the receiver, I have a profile that I've simply called Apps. That's going to log me into our NetScaler Access Gateway solution. From within Apps, I have this pointed to a development farm where I have 4 applications published to me: the Doc Finder, OneNote, Outlook, and Word. What I'm going to show first is the default windowed mode, where launching individual applications open up each application in its own session. I'm going to start by launching Word. So as you can see, I have my default kind of look and feel Citrix application window starting, and now I have a session with Word 2010. You can see I have to flick around, etc., to get the full kind of look and feel of the application. I can change between landscape and portrait, depending on what my preferences or how I want to work in the application. So as you can see on the Citrix console in my dev farm, I have one active session running Microsoft Word 2010. I'm going to bring up the Citrix menu, which gives me the option to bring up the keyboard. As you can see, there's some shortcuts along here that I can use, or I can go ahead and do what I was planning to do, just to show how this works. I'm going to click Done, which is going to drop down the keyboard, and now you can see what I just typed. Earlier we discussed the important concept of apps being launched from the Citrix receiver opening in windowed mode, which means only one app per Citrix session. If a user launches multiple apps, they will have multiple Citrix sessions open. I'm going to demonstrate this now. So I'm going to bring up the receiver menu. I'm going to click the house icon, which will take me back to the applications that I've published to me. So now I'm going to launch OneNote as my second application. Remember, I already have Word launched in a session. So a second Citrix dialog box login is happening to launch OneNote. And when this is done, as I'll show in the Citrix console, I basically have two Citrix sessions running, one with OneNote and one with Word. So as you can see now, I have Microsoft Word in one session and OneNote in a second session, and the Word session is set to disconnected. So now I'm going to bring up the receiver menu again. I'm going to go back. Actually, two important icons to be aware of are what I mentioned before, the house icon, which takes you back to your applications published to you, and the X icon, which is used to close the application that you have on the screen and essentially end your Citrix session or log you out of that Citrix session. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and close OneNote, which will take me back to the applications presented to me. When I click on Word, it's going to reconnect me back to that existing session that I already had open. So by clicking on Word this time, it's reconnecting me to my existing session that had Word on it. So in this demo, it's faster. In a real world scenario, not in a dev farm, a user's login process would obviously impact the total login time. So in this demo, it's hard to see a difference between a reconnecting to a disconnected session and a true login. But that reconnected me to my existing Word session, and then now I'm going to click the X button again, this time to close Word. So at this point, as the user, I've had to know I've launched two individual applications to use OneNote and Word, and I've had to know to go in and close each application to completely clear me out and truly log me out of my Citrix sessions running on the server. So as we discussed during the presentation, Doc Finder is a workaround to windowed mode. So what we've done is we've taken the Citrix Doc Finder and we've created application shortcuts published within Doc Finder. So it really serves as a container app to keep every user's application within a single Citrix session. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch Doc Finder, and that's launching Doc Finder as an application on the Citrix server. So there's my Citrix login, and now I have one application Doc Finder running in a session on the Citrix server. I'm going to go into my apps folder, and you'll see I've created shortcuts here for Excel, OneNote, Outlook, and Word. So now I'm going to launch Word, and you can see it launched Word pretty quickly, and it launched it in the same session that Doc Finder was in. And then what I'm going to do in Word is I'm going to minimize Word using the standard Windows minimize button, and now I'm going to launch OneNote. So OneNote has now launched, and what I have now is two applications running within a single Citrix session. So I'm going to minimize OneNote, and you can see within Doc Finder now, along the bottom, I have essentially two almost like a taskbar, two applications running that I can go between. So I could switch back to OneNote by clicking on the OneNote icon. As you can see, OneNote is now launched through the Citrix receiver. I could minimize it again and then launch Word. And then I'm back in Word. So what I've done is I've gotten around the windowed mode constraint of using published applications on a Citrix server, and use Doc Finder as almost like a container application. Now you can see I have, again, one session running Citrix Doc Finder as the application. We're going to drill into the Doc Finder application and show the processes that are currently running within Doc Finder. And as you can see, I have OneNote.exe and WinWord.exe both running within that session.